You'll dishonor our name. The decree that shattered everything and the unexpected path that followed. The words hung in the air, sharp and final, severing ties that had bound me for 18 years. Just moments after receiving my diploma, a symbol of achievement, I found myself on the unforgiving pavement, the weight of my few belongings heavy in discarded grocery bags. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows, mirroring the uncertainty that stretched before me. It had all started with a quiet conversation over what was supposed to be a celebratory breakfast. My parents, Eleanor and Charles, sat across from me, their expectations for my future as solid and unyielding as the mahogany table between us. "Mom, Dad," I began, my voice trembling slightly despite my efforts to remain composed, "there's something I need to tell you about my plans after graduation." My mother looked up from her herbal tea, a familiar furrow in her brow indicating she sensed a deviation from the carefully constructed path they had envisioned. My father, absorbed in the morning financial news, offered a curt, "Spit it out, Amelia. We have reservations at the club for lunch." Taking a deep breath, I announced, "I won't be accepting the internship at Sterling Investments this summer." The rustling of the newspaper ceased abruptly, and my father's gaze, usually focused on market trends, fixed on me with an intensity that made my throat tighten. "Excuse me," he stated, his voice dangerously low. "I've been offered a position at Bloom & Grow, a local landscaping firm," I continued. "I want to pursue a career in horticulture and landscape design." An unnerving silence descended upon the breakfast nook. My mother's hand froze halfway to her lips, a blueberry scone suspended in mid-air. "Gardening," my father finally uttered, the disbelief palpable in his tone. "You're throwing away a guaranteed pathway to a respectable career, a future in finance that your grandfather painstakingly built, for playing in the dirt?" "It's not just dirt, Dad," I countered, my voice gaining strength. "It's about creating beauty, connecting with nature, shaping environments." "Nonsense," his fist slammed onto the table, rattling the silverware. "No child of mine will waste their potential on such a frivolous pursuit. You will accept the internship at Sterling, and that is final." "But I've already accepted the position at Bloom & Grow," I said, my voice now wavering slightly as I faced their combined disapproval. "You did what?" my mother interjected, her voice laced with a mixture of shock and disappointment. "Without consulting us," my father boomed, his face flushed with anger. "I tried to talk to you both for weeks," I insisted, "but you wouldn't listen." "Eleanor," my father said, turning to my mother, "I told you we were being too lenient with her." "Now, Charles," my mother attempted to mediate. My father stood up, his imposing figure casting a long shadow across the table. "No more coddling. If she wants to make her own decisions, she can bear the consequences. If she's not going to Sterling, she's not living under this roof." My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Charles, you can't be serious. It's her graduation day." "Never been more serious," he retorted, his eyes unwavering. "She wants independence. Fine. She has it, starting today." I clung to the hope that this was merely a harsh tactic, a way to coerce me back onto their preferred path. Even as I walked across the stage to receive my diploma, a small part of me believed they would relent, that my mother would reason with him. But when we returned home, 2 worn duffel bags sat in the hallway. My father pointed to them with a cold detachment I had never witnessed before. "I've packed some essentials. You have 15 minutes to add anything else you need. Then you're gone." My mother wrung her hands, tears silently tracing paths down her cheeks, her silence a profound betrayal. "Dad, please," I pleaded one last time, "can't we just talk? There's nothing to discuss. You've made your choice, and so have I." His voice was devoid of emotion, like a business transaction being finalized. "I've worked too hard to build a life of stability for this family to watch you squander your opportunities." "That life was never my dream," I whispered, the words barely audible. A flicker of something crossed his face, perhaps a fleeting moment of understanding, but it was quickly masked by the stern expression I had grown accustomed to. "Then you are no longer a part of this family. We have provided you with every advantage, and you've thrown it back in our faces. You'll see how far your whimsical notions get you in the real world. Without the Sterling name, you'll amount to nothing." My gaze shifted to my mother, a silent appeal for support. She stepped forward hesitantly, pressing a folded piece of paper into my hand. "I'm so sorry, Amelia," she whispered, her eyes downcast. "Your father, he just wants what's best for you." "This isn't about what's best for me, Mom," I choked out, "it's about his pride." My father grasped my arm firmly, guiding me towards the door. "Time's up." And just like that, the door slammed shut, severing me from the life I had always known. The sun began to dip below the horizon as I stood on the porch, gazing at the imposing brick house that had never truly felt like home. Through the window, I could see my mother sitting on the stairs, her head buried in her hands. My father was nowhere in sight. With trembling fingers, I unfolded the note my mother had slipped me. Inside were a few $100 and a brief message: "Be safe. Love, Mom." It wasn't enough to challenge my father's decree, but it was a lifeline, a small act of defiance in the face of his unwavering decision. Clutching the grocery bags, I started walking, no car at my disposal. My father had ensured the vehicle I used was in his name, and no clear destination. My phone buzzed with a message from my friend, Liam. "Big news. Still coming to the grad party?" How could I possibly convey the seismic shift that had occurred in my life in a few short hours? That I was now adrift, my entire world reduced to the contents of a few discarded bags. Instead, I typed, "Need a place to crash. Emergency." Liam's response was immediate: "Doors always open." "What happened?" "Tell you when I get there," I replied, adjusting the weight of the bags and beginning the long walk to his apartment. With each step, the stark reality of my situation sank in. No home. Limited funds. No family support. Just a budding passion for the natural world that my father deemed worthless. As I walked through the familiar streets of my affluent neighborhood, past manicured lawns and expensive cars, I felt like an outsider, a ghost no longer belonging. My father's pronouncement echoed in my mind: "You'll amount to nothing." Exhausted and emotionally drained, I finally reached Liam's doorstep. Before I could knock, the door swung open, and Liam stood there, his celebratory attire replaced by casual clothes, his expression shifting from excitement to concern as he took in my disheveled appearance. "Amelia, what happened?" The words caught in my throat, and I simply stood there, the weight of the day pressing down on me. Liam didn't press for details. He simply pulled me inside, taking the bags from my numb hands. "Mom. Dad. Amelia's staying with us tonight," he called out. As Liam's parents emerged, their faces etched with worry, I realized this was the first moment of my new life, a life I would have to cultivate from the ground up, without a map or a safety net. Soaked in the remnants of the day's emotional storm, standing in my friend's entryway, I made a silent vow: I would prove my father wrong. His words would not be a prophecy, but a challenge I would meet head-on. Little did I know then, clutching those meager belongings, that the path from that moment of abandonment to any form of personal triumph would be a long and arduous one, filled with unexpected allies and unforeseen obstacles.